It was a quiet Tuesday when I heard the crunch. Not just any crunch, the kind that makes your stomach drop. I ran outside, barefoot, coffee spilling down my shirt. And there it was. My bridge, the one I built with my father, plank by plank across the blue glass of Lake Arlo, was being ripped apart by a backhoe. The lake shimmered like it was watching. Silent, helpless. And standing at the edge, HOA President Trish Whitmore. Oversized sunglasses, clipboard, that smug little smile, like she just ordered soy milk in a steakhouse. Unauthorized structure, she said flatly. No warning, no letter, no citation. Just destruction. I asked her why. She didn't even look at me when she muttered, "Your bridge ruins the aesthetic for our guests." The board voted. Guests. She meant the resort, the $4 million monstrosity they built last year at the far end of the lake, complete with tennis courts, cabanas, and fake flamingos. And here's the thing. That bridge didn't just connect my land, it controlled the water. My grandfather installed the lake's original dam system, and the bridge, it sat directly above the access point. So when they tore it down, they handed me the key to their downfall. They didn't know it yet, but they just poked the bear. And I was done playing neighborly. You want to drain my peace? Then don't cry when I drain your resort. Lake Arlo used to be a hidden gem, tucked between forested ridges, where loons called at dusk and fireflies danced like floating stars. My family had lived on the southern bank for generations, long before the HOA, before the resort investors started sniffing around. My property? 20 acres. A hand-built cabin, a shoreline dock, and the bridge, the one that connected to the old dam my grandfather designed after the flood of '68. It wasn't just a structure, it was a story. Then came the HOA. They called themselves the Lake Arlo Preservation Society. Cute name, pretentious tone. Trish Whitmore, retired event planner with a fake British accent, was their self-declared queen. Her clique, golf cart tyrants and sunscreen-slicked husbands who nodded at everything she said. At first they left me alone. A few reminders in the mailbox about my fire pit or the height of my trees. I laughed them off. But then the resort construction began. Trish convinced the board that selling a portion of lakeside land to a luxury timeshare company would increase community value. They drained a marsh, paved a wildlife trail, and built a resort with cabanas, champagne paddleboards, and Bluetooth speakers that played yacht rock 24/7s. And suddenly my bridge, it was off-brand. I started getting weekly letters. Your bridge lacks architectural compliance. Visual harmony violation. Please remove immediately to avoid penalties. I attended one HOA meeting, just one, held inside a converted yoga studio, where people whispered about energy alignment while shoving cookies in their mouths. I asked, what rule says I can't have a bridge that's been here 30 years? Trish just smiled. It's not about the rules. It's about the atmosphere we're curating. Atmosphere? She meant their brand vision for a lake. Still, I stayed quiet, thought they'd lose interest. They didn't. The backhoe showed up Tuesday morning. No notice, no warning. And as I watched them toss the beams, the ones my dad carved by hand, into the lake, I realized something. This wasn't about a bridge. It was a declaration of war. And I wasn't about to lose. That was just the beginning. After they destroyed the bridge, I expected remorse. A call, a letter, something. Instead, I got $3,200 fine for obstructing maintenance personnel. Apparently, I was in their way by existing. I filed an appeal, quoting the county deed that clearly excluded my land from their jurisdiction. Their response? As a community participant, we expect compliance. I was never a participant, never signed anything, but they didn't care. Next, my property line signs were torn down. Then came the anonymous complaints. My dock was too long. My solar panels reflected into guest windows. My bonfire ring, which had been there for 20 years, was now a fire hazard. I caught one of them, Kyle tiptoeing along my boundary line with a measuring tape. I said, "Lose something, Kyle." He stammered something about surveying common beautification zones. I told him to get off my land. He ran like a deer hearing fireworks. Then, the letters turned threatening. Failure to comply may result in lien placement. HOA reserves right to enter properties for aesthetic remediation. Aesthetic remediation? They weren't a community board. They were a cult with clipboards. And then, they crossed the final line. They rerouted their resort's pumps and began draining water directly from the dam inlet on my land. In 2 days, my cove dropped nearly 2 feet. The fish died. The shoreline cracked. The lake looked like it was exhaling its last breath. And on top of all that, they installed a floating dock where my bridge had stood, complete with tiki torches, umbrellas, and a giant sign that read, "Private guests only." That's when I snapped. I visited the county registrar, dug up my grandfather's dam schematics from 1969. Turns out, the water rights never transferred. That bridge they destroyed, it had sat directly above the only mechanism to control the lake's flow. And I still owned it. That's when I filed complaints. Illegal water diversion, environmental contamination, destruction of historic structures. Then I called an old family friend, Judge Mahoney, retired, sharp as ever. He connected me to a lawyer who loved suing arrogant HOAs. I placed trail cameras in the woods. 2 board members got caught dumping fertilizer runoff 5 feet from the lake's edge. I sent the footage to Trish. Her reply, "You'll hear from our legal team." Instead, she heard from mine. But I wasn't done. I hiked to the dam, still hidden beneath iron grates, rusty but functional. The crank still worked. I turned it just a little. The lake dropped another 2 feet overnight. The resort's floating bar, half sunk. The shoreline party tents, tilted and sagging in the mud. The resort's event manager emailed the HOA board. "Water is disappearing at alarming rate, canceling 3 events." Trish? She blamed beavers. Oh no, Trish. That wasn't wildlife. That was war. Every day, the HOA doubled down. More letters, more veiled threats. Even tried to serve me with a cease and desist, which they left taped to a rock on my side of the lake. Cute, but I had already prepared my counterattack. The lake wasn't just water anymore. It was leverage, and I was about to drown them in their own hypocrisy. First, I filed a formal injunction to halt the resort's water usage. Then, I reported their floating dock, the one sitting squarely over my legally protected dam channel, as an unauthorized structure. Next, I contacted 2 environmental nonprofits and shared drone footage of shoreline damage, waterline drop, and dead fish washed up along the resort's edge. Let's just say the Preservation Society wasn't looking very preserving. But before all that, I made a sign. I marched down to the muddy patch where my bridge used to be, the patch the HOA had turned into a private resort cove, and hammered a stake into the ground. The sign read, "Private dam property. Water access by legal permit only. Violators will be prosecuted." And underneath, a smiling plastic beaver statue wearing sunglasses. Just a little something for the HOA's beaver theory. The next HOA meeting was heated. I wasn't invited, but I listened from my dock, sipping lemonade. Their voices echoed across the lake. Guests were complaining. Water was too low. Boats couldn't launch. Canoes sat crooked in the mud. The resort's 4th of July event? Canceled. The floating DJ stage? Sinking literally. One member suggested they offer compensation to me. Another said I was bluffing. So Trish called me. 14 missed calls. I finally picked up. "You're destroying the community," she hissed. "No," I said calmly. "You destroyed a bridge that didn't belong to you, drained water from a dam you didn't own, and trespassed across land you never had jurisdiction over. Silence. Then she asked it the question I'd been waiting for. What do you want? I smiled. Simple. Resign as HOA president. Issue a public apology. Use resort funds to rebuild my bridge exactly as it was. Remove your unauthorized dock. And I want your flamingo. The what? The giant pink flamingo statue you installed on the beach for tropical flair. I want it. Delivered. Click. She hung up. Perfect. By the end of the week, she was voted out. Apparently, other board members had no idea how many shady backdoor deals she'd made to get the resort approved. Turns out, Trish had been receiving consulting fees from the resort company off the books. My lawyer sent one more packet of evidence to the county, and suddenly the HOA's tone changed. They signed a formal agreement. They'd fund the complete reconstruction of my bridge. They'd halt any further resort expansion. They'd acknowledge my land and water rights in writing. And just to twist the knife, they'd officially rename themselves from Lake Arlo Preservation Society to Lake Arlo Community Board. No more preservation lies. And the flamingo, delivered in a golf cart, tied down with red ribbon, placed gently at the edge of my dock, beak pointed toward the water. I didn't just take it to be petty. I took it to remind them that when you mess with the balance of the lake, eventually the current comes for you. It was a crisp Saturday morning when the SUVs pulled up. County officials, environmental inspectors, a journalist or two. Their boots hit the gravel. Clipboards came out, drones launched. And the moment they asked, "Whose land is this dam on?" Not that, every eye turned. There I stood on my dock holding a fishing rod in one hand and a coffee mug in the other. I smiled. Mine. They measured shoreline damage, tested water samples, documented every inch of erosion and illegal modification. The resort's event director tried to offer excuses. It's the weather, maybe beavers, maybe runoff. One inspector cut her off. There are synthetic fertilizer traces in the sediment. This isn't runoff, this is coordinated drainage. I handed over the trail cam footage, the ones showing HOA board members dumping lawn chemicals right by the waterline. I also provided emails, voice recordings, property surveys. The lead investigator looked over everything and muttered, "Oh yeah, this is going to be fun." The news article dropped within 48 hours. OA under fire for illegally draining protected lake. $4 million, resort shut down for violations. The story went viral in our region. Yelp reviews flooded in. My kayak sat in 2 inches of mud. Mosquitoes the size of birds. Avoid this place unless you like dead fish and HOA drama. And the best one? Oh, this place smells like lake death and lies. I framed that one. Hung it right above my fireplace. A week later, what was left of the HOA board came to my porch. No clipboards, no smug faces. Just awkward hands and fake humility. They offered apologies, tried to play the "we didn't know" card. But their eyes said it all. They knew. They just didn't think they'd lose. They rebuilt the bridge beautifully. Stronger than before. Cedar planks, brass nameplate. And they didn't just rebuild the bridge, they rebuilt my authority. Official court documents signed. Public retraction issued. HOA restrictions revised to exclude all properties outside their legal control, including mine. As for Trish, she didn't just lose her title. She was facing investigation, HOA fraud, environmental harm, and civil trespassing. She moved out, vanished from Lake Arlo. Rumor is she's renting an Airbnb in the desert now. No lakes there. Oh, and the flamingo, still standing on my dock, beak up, chest proud. I named it accountability. Lake Arlo is calm again. The water's returned to its natural level. The fish have come back. The loons sing at dusk, just like they used to. My bridge stands proud, steady, eternal, rebuilt, exactly the way my father and I made it. Only now, it's stronger. And so am I. The HOA, reduced to a volunteer gardening club. They now spend their weekends planting lilies by the resort's closed gates. The resort, still shut down, still sinking in reviews, still sitting like a half-deflated beach ball full of ego, but no air. People ask me, why didn't you sue them for everything? Simple. Because I didn't want money. I wanted consequences. I wanted them to feel the weight of their own arrogance, to watch their power shrink with every inch the lake receded, to realize too late that some people don't bluff. We build, we wait, and when the time is right, we turn the wheel. You know, my grandfather once told me, never build a dam to trap others. Build it to teach them the power of flow. That lesson stuck with me. And now, it flows through every beam of that bridge, every ripple in the water, every silence that followed their noise. So let me ask you, what would you have done if someone destroyed your family's legacy? Would you have fought back? Would you have drained the lake? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one. And if you made it to the end, comment, justice served. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story with someone who needs to remember. Sometimes, the best revenge is simply letting the truth flow.